Hi, welcome to the March Title I Part A Coordinators webinar. My name is David Malonte. I'm the Assistant Director in the Division of School and Program Improvement. Also, I'm the state's non-public school ombudsman as part of my role as well.
Hi, I'm Melissa Farrell. I'm the Homeless Program Coordinator for the state, and I'm glad to be here with you guys this morning.
And I'm Tara Rodriguez, Director of the Division of School and Program Improvement. Welcome, everyone. So glad you could join us this morning. So let's go ahead. We got a lot of information to share with you this morning, and let's go ahead and take a look at some logistics for the call. If you have a question during the call, please send me an email at the address shown on the screen. We will try to get those questions answered during the call, but if not, we will make sure somebody follows up with you right afterward. Also, the webinar will be recorded and posted to our Title I Documents and Resources page. It usually takes a day or so to get those posted. So what we'll do for the agenda for this call is we will start with a review of our February webinar topics. We'll talk about a few updates. We are bringing you some information that hopefully will be just in time as you are conducting some of your spring planning activities for next year. In that light, Melissa will talk about the district set aside for students experiencing homelessness, and David will provide some information and updates on equitable services. So let's start with our review of the February webinar. We talked a lot about the allowability process, if you recall, and we talked about how that is a required process. I shared some information about our allowability process here at KDE. Hopefully you've had a chance to review your process and maybe even speak to some principles about what your allowability process entails. Last month's webinar is posted on our Documents and Resources webpage. So during last month's webinar, we also talked a lot about Gmap and Munis alignment, and I would like to provide a few clarifying comments and information about some of the information that was shared. I said that districts periodically need to have a process by which they periodically go in and align Gmap and Munis, and this would occur through revisions in Gmap and also possibly journal entries in Munis. Make sure that when you make changes in Gmap through this process that you submit those, because they'll need to go through the workflow for approval. And also be watching for budget overages in Munis. We had a district that submitted a question about, and the question basically said, when you're aligning Gmap and Munis, what percent is it okay to go over budget? And I'm not sure I completely understood the question, so I'm going to answer it in two different ways. This is a screenshot that shows the Munis report that I shared in last month's call, and you see in this Munis report that the district budgeted $37,423 in Munis and budgeted a slightly smaller amount in Gmap. It is not, the amounts are pretty close, and because this district clearly has plenty of money left in their budget, if you look, they have over $20,000 available still to spend. So they have not overspent their budget. The budgeted amounts don't quite match. This would not be a huge concern, but during their regular process, when they go back in to align Gmap and Munis, they might want to go ahead and make that change. However, if they had overspent in Munis in this code or in other codes, or if they were spending in a code that was not approved in Gmap, that would be a great concern, as we discussed in last month's webinar, for several reasons that were discussed, and David may want to chime in with any additional reminders about that.
Yeah, I would just say that if you are overspending in some codes, you need to be very careful about ensuring that you continue to meet the required set-asides, such as 1% for parent and family engagement. That if you're overspending somewhere, you are not shorting your school allocations by any amount, because that could skew and affect rank and serve. So those types of things, when you are overspending here or there, are just things you have to really be aware of.
Right, so we just want to make sure to provide that reminder as well. Some updates for you for today. You may, if you have an approved original Title I application for fiscal year 19, you should have received some revised final allocations in Gmap. And if you attended one of our February meetings, regional meetings, you may have seen me present a slide from the federal government that said that there would be no more revised allocations. I had mentioned that there was one revised allocation that came out in the fall, and then the federal government said there wouldn't be any more. Well, this is the one that I was talking about. It was delayed because of the same kinds of delays we experienced last summer with the delay in the preliminary allocations coming out has pushed this back. So this is the one that I was referring to in the meeting that's just come out. Also, we spent a lot of time in the regional meetings discussing KDE district set-aside guidance that has been posted. And on our webpage, please review that if you were not able to attend one of the regional meetings. And also, our March newsletter is going to be very informative. It should be a great newsletter. It contains a lot of the questions that came from the regional meetings. It is currently in the review and approval process, but as soon as it is ready to be released, we will be sure to get that to you. So I wanted to give you a few updates. This is kind of the heart of our presentation today, the heart of our presentation, spring planning work. I wanted to remind you about the importance of the Csip, the Comprehensive School Improvement Plan, the CDIP, Comprehensive District Improvement Plan, and the needs assessment in determining the allowability of Title I costs. Schools have a lot of flexibility in how they spend their Title I funds, but having those needs documented in the needs assessment, strategies in the Csip will go a long way in helping to establish the allowability of those costs. Another thing that's important to be using as evidence as you're planning for next year and as principals and SBDM councils are planning next year's budget and strategies is to use the results from the Title I annual review. Remember, this is a required annual evaluation for school-wide programs. It is submitted by school principals by January the 1st in eProve. And in that document, schools and SBDM councils will evaluate the effectiveness of the strategies that they used as part of their school improvement work. They evaluate the effectiveness of the parent and family engagement program. They evaluate the effectiveness of their needs assessment process and their evaluation process. And these results should be used as you're deciding what to do for next year. If certain strategies did not prove to be effective, if student achievement did not increase as was desired, then you need to be thinking about that as you're planning for next year. Please also communicate to principals and SBDM councils about these documents and to make sure that they are using them as they are doing their planning activities. Also, as you're planning for next year, you will want to be considering the set aside for homeless students, and Melissa is going to talk about that.
Thank you, Tara. The goal of this session is to explain how Title I Part A and the McKinney-Vento Act intersect, and we offer some strategies for effective cross-program collaboration. While students experiencing homelessness often have substantial needs and face unique barriers, Title I Part A and McKinney-Vento programs complement each other. Both programs share the common goal of identifying these students and meeting their educational needs. Cross-program partnerships not only meet each program's statutory requirements for collaboration, but have the potential to significantly improve the academic outcomes of students experiencing homelessness. While more than 90% of U.S. school districts receive Title I Part A allocations, only 22% of U.S. school districts receive McKinney-Vento subgrant funding. So it's critical that both programs work together to leverage those resources to the greatest extent possible. Local homeless liaisons must coordinate and collaborate with other school personnel who are responsible for providing services to students experiencing homelessness. Your Title I Part A plans need a description of how your program is coordinated with your district's McKinney-Vento program, and the development of your plan should include timely and meaningful consultation with your homeless liaison. Title I Part A requires school districts to reserve sufficient Title I funds to provide services to students experiencing homelessness that are comparable to those provided to students in Title I schools. These services may include providing educationally related support services to children in shelters and other locations where children experiencing homelessness may live. If there are no students identified as homeless, funds should be set aside in the event that homeless students are identified during the school year, because we know that events can happen throughout the school year that we didn't anticipate. Also, the district may use funds for professional development for employees that heightens awareness of the plight of homeless children and how to respect their privacy and adhere to FERPA. You will always need to provide PD to certified and classified staff on district policies that address identifications. The plan must also describe the Title I Part A services that will be provided to students experiencing homelessness, including through the homeless set-aside. So again, as I mentioned in the last slide, cross-program coordination provides an opportunity to optimize your resource allocation. So it's critical that both programs work together. Students experiencing homelessness are part of the Title I Part A's target population of disadvantaged students. However, the high mobility, trauma, and poverty that are associated with homelessness create unique educational barriers and challenges that Title I Part A students with fixed, regular, and adequate housing may not face. Homelessness can be associated with lower standardized test scores in reading, spelling, and math. Students experiencing homelessness also transfer schools more often, which requires them to adapt to new curricula, teachers, and peers, while increasing the risk of broken bonds, all of which impact learning negatively. Thus, students in homeless situations often require supports beyond what typically may be offered to other students to support their academic success. For these reasons, children and youth experiencing homelessness are automatically eligible for Title I Part A services whether or not they attend a Title I Part A school. This automatic eligibility acknowledges that the experience of homelessness puts children and youth at significant risk of academic failure, regardless of their previous academic standing. And additionally, automatic Title I Part A eligibility allows students in homeless situations who are doing well academically to receive additional non-instructional education-related supports and services that they need to succeed in school. So we have two principles that govern the usage of homeless set-aside funds. The services must be reasonable and necessary to assist students experiencing homelessness to take advantage of educational opportunities. And the funds must be used only as a last resort when funds or services from other public sources aren't available. The best practice is to spend your funds during the year in which they are generated. Once funds have been reserved for your homeless program, they must be used for that program, even if they're carried over. So if you're consistently carrying over a large amount, examine your methodology and see whether or not you're reserving too much. As I mentioned back on slide 6, your district may use funds for professional development for both certified and classified staff that heightens awareness and the plight of homeless children and how to take the appropriate actions in a respectful way and in ways that adhere to FERPA. For example, your school counselors need training related to removing barriers that prevent youth from receiving full or partial credit for coursework, which might prevent or slow their progress towards graduation. So homeless set-aside funds may be used to provide comparable services related to students experiencing homelessness who do not attend a Title I school. And the funds may also be used to provide services that are not ordinarily provided to other Title I students. Due to the many and the varied needs of students experiencing homelessness, the Title I Part A services provided to these students may need to be greater in scope and intensity compared to those services normally provided to non-homeless students. For example, a student experiencing homelessness who is participating in tutoring as part of a targeted assistance program may also need counseling services due to exposure to domestic violence or other trauma that may be affecting learning. These additional services that may go beyond what is provided to all Title I Part A students are allowable, given that they are supplemental to the regular school program, but also ensure that the student can effectively take advantage of educational opportunities. Determining an appropriate homeless set-aside amount requires coordination between the school district's Title I Part A and McKinney-Vento programs. You'll need to determine the number of students as well as the needs of the students. Your district should establish a method for determining your homeless set-aside. When determining this set-aside amount, the Title I director and homeless liaison should partner together and review relevant data in order to ensure that sufficient Title I Part A funds are reserved to meet the needs of students experiencing homelessness. And as a reminder, in determining this set-aside amount, districts should allow for the provision of services to meet the unique needs of homeless students who attend Title I Part A schools that are above and beyond services provided through the regular Title I-A programs at those schools, in addition to the provision of services to homeless students who do not attend Title I Part A schools. Once a district has identified the needs of students experiencing homelessness to be addressed, the amount of funds necessary to provide services should be determined. In addition to planning interventions based on student needs, planned services should be of sufficient time and intensity to impact the student's academic outcomes. The district's Title I Part A application should also include a description of the method used for determining the amount reserved, whether by a needs assessment or some other method, for example, your past homeless student enrollment or maybe your support service cost data, and how the liaison was consulted or involved in determining this set-aside. This information can be found in item number 2 on page 51 of your Title I handbook. Possible methods for calculating the set-aside amount include determining a percentage of the district's Title I Part A funds to reserve for the homeless set-aside, multiplying the number of students experiencing homelessness identified by the district by the Title I Part A per pupil allocation, matching or exceeding the amount of McKinney-Vento subgrant dollars received by the district if that's applicable to you, and adjusting previous set-aside amounts based on past set-aside expenditures and trend data, such as the number of students experiencing homelessness identified, these students' academic outcomes and educational needs, and changes to the community's poverty levels and/or the economy. McKinney-Vento and Title I Part A personnel should communicate and collaborate on an ongoing basis to identify the needs of children and youth experiencing homelessness, review available resources, and plan ways to address those student needs. Continual cross-program interaction enables you to respond to the emerging needs of students experiencing homelessness and implement interventions expediently. So locating Title I and homeless education program offices in close proximity is something that you might want to consider. It's also advantageous to provide joint trainings and materials. You'll also want to share handbooks for Title I Part A and homeless education programs, along with other resources related to serving students experiencing high poverty and mobility. And now David's going to share some information about equitable services.
Do we want to pause for questions, Tara?
We have no questions at this time.
Excellent. So again, my name is David Melanti. Part of my job is to serve as the non-public school ombudsman for the state of Kentucky, and what that means is I am held responsible for ensuring that the state and districts meet the requirements for providing non-public schools services under programs in ESSA, providing technical assistance about those requirements, and then entertaining any kind of complaints that may come in from concerned citizens, school districts, or others, which may include investigating those complaints as necessary. So today I want to talk a little bit about the spring timeline and activities around providing equitable services. I'll get into the equitable services packet just a little bit and show you the Ombudsman webpage and talk about resources that can be found there. So right now, as you get into spring, you're probably thinking, if you're serving private schools, that you need to start your consultation, and you would be correct. The first part of that would include sending an intent to participate letter. That letter can be found, a sample can be found in the Title I Part A handbook. I want to make very clear that that is not the declaration of participation. The declaration actually collects information about Title II Part A, Title III, Title IV Part A, and IDA-B. So why is there a difference between the Title I letter or intent to participate and the declaration? Well, the declaration collects information for private schools that exist within the district's boundaries only. Title I, on the other hand, services follow students. So if students go to a private school across state or district lines, instead of attending one of your public schools, you have to consult and figure out whether those private schools across district lines want services, whether they're going to participate, and that's the purpose of the intent to participate letter. And if so, you have to consult and provide services to those schools to ensure you're meeting requirements. So again, as you enter into spring, consultation's going to come up. Your consultation, a basic overview of that, you're going to give participating private schools a program overview probably. You're going to start to figure out how to collect enrollment and low-income numbers from private schools. You're going to consult about required topics, and the equitable services packet walks you through those required topics. And importantly, you're going to collaboratively complete, sign, and upload the equitable services document to Gmap. We'll talk about that a little more in depth in just a second, but we are going to release a new version for the 1920 school year very soon, sometime around the first part of April, that you can use for consultation. So with that packet, we want to ensure that those packets are not just being dropped off into private schools' laps and they're giving the instruction of, here, complete this. The packet is designed to guide a conversation around the requirements, around the services to be provided, everything from assessing the private school's needs around students, teachers, and parents' needs as well, to planning for the evaluation of those services. And again, we require an upload to Gmap as the required transmittal. So there's a clause in ESSA that says the Equitable Services Agreement has to be uploaded as a requirement to the Ombudsman. So when you upload that to Gmap, that satisfies that requirement. We have our Title I staff go in and as they're evaluating applications each year, they check to make sure that that has been uploaded, and they'll go into the application or the packet to ensure that it has been completed appropriately. I want to take just a second to kind of scroll through the Equitable Services packet and show you what's there. On the first introductory page of the packet, what you'll find are some just some instructions for how to complete the packet. It talks about each of the programs within the packet. and gives you some very basic instructions. I'll get into Title I just a little bit. So this will give you an idea of what the Title I portion of the packet looks like. Every other program will follow this same sort of format, although the questions may differ program to program depending on what the requirements are. So you'll notice that in Title I it takes you through planning for the needs, planning for professional learning, talking about prioritizing the needs as noted above in your description. We'll talk about how you plan to increase parental involvement under the Title I Part A program, and then generally talks about the services, the goals for the program, and how you plan on evaluating the program as well. As you walk through, you're going to see sections for each program covered under ESSA. Those sections only need to be completed if the private school is going to participate in program services for that particular part. I want to get down to the bottom of this document and show you a couple more important pieces at the bottom. So at the bottom is the consultation agreement, which is required to be signed by both the school district and the private school. This gives the opportunity for the private school to basically say, yes, the district consulted with us in a timely fashion on these required topics, and we are participating in these programs. It also gives them an opportunity to say no, timely and meaningful consultation did not occur, and to provide, gives them an opportunity to provide an explanation of why not. So it talks about some of the required topics there, and you'll also see at the bottom, if you are providing services through a third-party provider, through a contract, that we ask that the third-party provider sign off on this agreement as well, so stating that they understand what services are to be provided and how they are to be carried out. Lastly, I want to take you through some resources on the Ombudsman webpage. So the webpage actually offers guidance about and provides non-public school resources. That could be anything from non-regulatory guidance. I've just posted and sent notice of some FAQs that have been developed, particularly relating to or geared towards meeting the needs of private school participants. I'll show you those in just a second. And again, the new version of the Equitable Services packet is going to be posted very soon to that page. So to show you what that looks like, so the middle kind of explains each of the programs that are covered under ESSA that I would be responsible for providing guidance on and ensuring requirements for. It gives some contact information at the very bottom of that page. My name is not directly on there, and the email address is different from my normal KDE email address, but I do monitor two mailboxes. And I try to monitor the non-public school ombudsman mailbox every single day. On the right-hand side of the page, what you'll find are related resources. That's everything from non-regulatory guidance and some frequently asked questions here. Right where the pointer is. Those frequently asked questions, again, are geared towards the non-public school audience. But I believe they could be useful as you go into consultation with addressing some of the most frequently asked questions that we receive from private schools. And that's anything from, how much money is my private school going to get? And the answer to that is none, because they receive services only, to what's required in consultation and who's responsible for carrying out services. There are only 4 questions in that document at this point, and those are the most frequently asked questions, but we are taking suggestions, which you can email directly to me through either my KDE mailbox or through the non-public school ombudsman mailbox. If you have suggestions on questions that could be added that might help you out as a district in the consultation process and might help provide clarification, we definitely would like to hear from you about those and see if we could include those in the document. So we're going to pause, Tara, for some questions at this point.
There are no questions
No
at
questions?
this time.
Okay. So we'll move on. If you do have questions, please feel free to contact us at a later time. So the April webinar is scheduled for Monday, the 22nd at 10 a.m. Right now, the agenda includes some professional learning topics, sort of coupled with Title I information. We are going to invite someone from another office, Christine Meisberger, to talk a little bit about professional learning. We'll have some Gmap application updates, and we will identify topics that are additional and timely to the April webinar.
We do have a question that just came in.
Okay?
Okay, and it's about private school consultation. And the
Okay.
question says, our district held a consultation meeting that was advertised and invitations were sent to all private and home schools 2 weeks in advance of the meeting. No representatives from our private and home schools showed for the meeting. Does the part in Gmap still need to be filled out even though no one showed for the consultation?
So if you have nobody participating in services, you would not be required to complete the 2 things. You wouldn't be required to complete the equitable services parts of the Gmap application, nor would you be required to do the equitable services document. I think that answers that question.
But they would still want to maintain documentation that they sent out the
Yes,
invitations and so
definitely
on.
you would want to maintain documentation in-house that shows that you made an attempt to make contact, that you provided a reasonable timeline to respond to that, and generally we advise folks to, as they send out the intent to participate, to send out through like certified mail, so you get a receipt of signature along with that. But also document any follow-up conversations such as email, phone call, those types of things to ensure that you have met your requirements under statute.
Thank you for the question.
We're going to leave you with some resources around Title I Part A and federal programs, 2016 non-regulatory guidance around supporting school reform by leveraging federal funds in a school-wide program. That guidance addresses school-wide programs in particular and how you can use funds across many programs to serve students, teachers, and parents within that school-wide program. And the National Center for Homeless Education website, which provides lots of valuable resources for serving homeless students. And then our contact information here, please contact Melissa if you have questions about homeless or McKinney-Vento. You can contact me about federal programs, including Title I Part A, Part C, Part D, 21st Century. We handle some state programs like Community Education, SBDM. So we handle a wide range of programs within our division. And Tara as well, any of those programs. And if you don't know who to go to, please contact us as well. If we are not the right people, we'll get you in touch with the right person who can answer that question for you. That concludes the webinar for March. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to contact us at any time, and thank you for joining us.